Today, we'll choose an EV for a Ford C-Max Energi owner considering a used Subaru Solterra from Hertz, a viewer looking to replace their Chevy Bolt EV with something under $28,000, and a viewer trying to convince their friend in the Bay Area to go electric for the short term. Welcome to Battery Bargains, a weekly series from the Batteries Included podcast. This is episode number 34. I'm Dominic Yoni, and I am joined today by Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast. Now, if you're looking for your own battery bargain, send us a 1-minute video or an email with a couple short paragraphs describing your use case and budget, and we'll see about featuring your case on an upcoming episode. All right, so let's kick this thing off with our first case for today. And to be transparent, we've paraphrased these emails a bit for length and clarity. So you ready to go car shopping?
Here we go.
All right. So our first email comes to us from Chad, and he writes, "Hello, BIP team. I'm a longtime viewer / listener. Great shows. I'm a single 51-year-old living in the NorCal Bay Area. That's Northern California. I currently drive a 2016 Ford C-Max Energi that I bought new in 2016. I am in an apartment dweller and I'm ready to go full electric, but I am on a tight budget and saw some examples of the 2023 Subaru Solterra on the Hertz car sales website for under $24,000. I don't drive very far, maybe a road trip to Las Vegas or South California a couple times a year. That's kind of far. I have learned to be patient, waiting for my C-Max to charge at public level 2 chargers, so the rapidity of charge is not my top priority. I was looking originally for a used Volkswagen ID4, but I have concerns about the software issues. I am frugally minded. My divorce was finalized in 2023. Thanks for sharing. So should I avoid the Solterra and look to other options? I really don't want to spend more than $27,000. Thanks. Chad. All right. So Chad has a Ford C-Max Energi currently. Are you familiar with this car?
I am not. I've never owned one or driven one.
It's a plug-in hybrid with about 20 miles of all-electric range, and it only charges, I believe it only charges on AC, so at 3.3 kilowatts. So
that's an overnight charge. That is not a road trip charge.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's only a small battery, so it doesn't take that long. I think it only takes a couple hours for it to actually charge up because the battery is so small, right?
Right.
But anyway, so yes, what do you think? Subaru Solterra?
No.
Under 28,000?
No.
Man.
No. If you said I'm a huge Subaru fan, and I like the fact that it's quirky, and I never see them driving around. I've had 4 of them. I love the Subaru brand. I'd say, well, go for it, because clearly you're going to make allowances for the bits that don't do it very well. And Kyle on this podcast before has said that he thinks the best thing about that car, which is also the Toyota BZ4X, by the way, is the 4-wheel drive system and how it can go off-road, and he rates that very highly. The rest of the car stinks, unfortunately. So, look, but you're used to a slow-charging EV, but this is a properly slow-charging EV. It was their first attempt, even though Toyota always rate very highly. When you ask the general public, not the viewers of this podcast typically, who makes electric cars, Toyota often comes out number 1 before Tesla. So even though they have been making hybrids forever, they get loads of credit for making EVs, even though they don't. This was a first attempt, and it was a really bad one as well. So there's only so many DC fast charges you can do in a 24-hour time period. They limit it by time, regardless of whether the battery is toasty or not. So don't buy that. Please don't buy the Solterra unless you're a Subaru fan. Don't buy the BZ4X unless you're a Subaru fan. There's so many better choices out there. I'm going to start with the fact that you are after value, my friend. You want value. And you weren't saying, I want to buy a new car. You're saying, I don't mind buying a car that's maybe a year old, a 23 Solterra. So, yeah, you can get, maybe still new model year 23 Solterras, but I got the feeling you were looking at used ones because you mentioned Hertz on their website. And if you're going to go value, you've only got to go back a little bit further and you qualify for the tax credit. So I think that if you are value, don't buy a 2023 car. Now, the US tax credit for used EVs under the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, to qualify for the credit, the vehicle and the buyer must meet certain specific criteria. Number 1, age of the vehicle. The vehicle must be at least 2 years old from the date of purchase. 2, the purchase price must be below $25,000. 3, you must get it from a qualified dealer. 4, battery capacity has to be at least 7 kilowatt hours. Don't get me started on that. It was ridiculous. It should have been 20 kilowatt hours, and that would have... Anyway, that's battery capacity. 5, original use. The vehicle must be the first time it's being resold. The first time it's being resold as a used vehicle. And 6, the weight must be gross vehicle weight less than £14,000. Your modified adjusted gross income must not exceed $75,000 for a single filer, 112.5 for heads of household, 150 for joints. Oh, that's a sore point. Sorry, I shouldn't mention joint filers. The vehicle must be for... Hey, you brought the divorce up, so you brought it up.
It wasn't me. It was Chad who brought it up, actually. I'd have kept that to myself personally. But
The vehicle must be for personal use and not for resale. And so the credit amount is $4,000 or 30% of the vehicle's sale price. My goodness, the IRA was particularly convoluted and complicated. Don't even get me started on new ones.
I'm surprised you know those rules pretty well, though. I didn't realize that, but it could only be like the first resale.
Yeah.
So if a car if it's a second owner, it doesn't qualify.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So if you do this, make sure you get all the documentation from the dealer, like a sales receipt and the certification that your vehicle meets the requirements as well. By meeting those requirements, you can get that $4,000 off, which, like you say, you are all about the value. The 2 years old thing, by the way, it's worth clarifying. It must be at least 2 years old for the EV tax credit from the date of the sale to a retail customer on that first invoice, not the date of manufacture, not that it's a 2023 model year because the car maker designated it a model year. It's from 2 years. So if you find one that was sold 2 years ago today to the original retail buyer, then you're good. So I would say just go back a little bit. And so June 19th, 2022, anything before that, go fill your boots. If you do in terms of your income, and it sounds like you're after value, then please think about that. Because a 2-year-old car, I just bought a 3-year-old one with my Polestar. It still feels new. Well, it's new to me. Yeah. It was in good nick. I have 40,000 miles. So, and under 25 grand, you have, and this email is going to cross over slightly with the next email. You have got at that price point just the pick of the bunch. You can have almost any Tesla Model 3 standard range that you want. Low miles, great condition, be picky, be bargain hard, and if someone's playing hardball, move on. Just give them like 3 minutes to know if they're a serious seller or not. So many great cars like the Kona. We owned the Kona Ultimate for a year. Love it, love it, love it. It's quite a small car. But you can get the Nero. I forget what the letters are because our spec is different name to your spec.
E-Nero.
Yeah, but the SX or the S. I think, anyway, either way, great spec Nero. Like almost, obviously the Bolts and stuff and the EUVs. But my advice to you, and I'll let Dom talk about the VW ID4 software. I don't think that's an issue, by the way, if he wants to. But my recommendation would be look seriously whether you do want a 23 car and don't buy the Solterra.
Right. So speaking of Solterra, let's just pop one of those up on the screen real quick. So I looked and let's see, use Solterra and share. So yes, so I found this. I looked up and I found from Hertz. A Solterra is only 7,000 miles for $24,500. That's a crazy deal. But it's a 2023. And as Martin says, it's not eligible for the $4,000 used car tax credit, used EV tax credit. So, it seems like a good deal. And it is. It's a pretty good deal. But there are better deals and better cars out there. And so you could, you should look at, I don't know. So you mentioned the Volkswagen ID4. But maybe the software is not, the 2024, the software is great. Earlier ones, there's some, people have issues with, I think it's the route planning and the battery conditioning and things like that. Maybe not stellar. It used to be laggy. I think maybe updates have improved that. But I did find this one example here. It's 2,000 miles. This is like a brand new car, basically. All-wheel drive. The Pro, not the top of the line, but you can look around and find similar deals. So yeah, 21,000, way below your budget, way in there, like a brand new car. If you can put up with like the software, it's a decent driving. I think it's a decent driving car. A normal, it's fine. They're fine automobiles. I don't. Yeah, I have a hard time hating on that, but or you could go like a 2020 Tesla Model 3 long range. If you look around, try to find something under 20,000, say under 20,000 miles. You might as well, in this price range, if you can find the lower miles, the better. If it went Tesla, the lowest one I could really get here was like a 20,000. And for a long range, you could go with a smaller battery, but you live in an apartment, so I think you want the most battery, the most range as possible, which is another strike against the Solterra because despite the fact that it has like what's a 71 or so kilowatt hour battery, the range is, it has a 71.4 kilowatt hour battery. The range is like 222 miles to 228 miles, depending on what size of wheel you have. So that's not great. It's not very efficient. So if it was me, basically, I found this other car, and Martin mentioned it, of course, earlier because he knows all the cool cars for the good prices. So yeah, I came across this Hyundai Kona and this thing. So this is like a brand new car. This got 83 miles on it. Oh, it's 2023, so it's not eligible for the used car tax credit. So you'd be at 24.4, but you can pretty easily find pretty low mileage 2022s that would be eligible for the tax credit for under 25, which would bring it down to at least $21,000. So I really think this is the way to go. And these charge in the city, you're going to get over 300 miles of range with this. So if you're an apartment dweller, it's not the fastest charging one. I think it charges a maximum of 80 kilowatts, but you won't have to charge as often anyway. So that's a plus, I think. I don't know. What do you think, Martin?
I think I want to correct myself because Curtis in the comments says that 2023 model year cars would qualify. So let's have a look at the IRS website because the last time I looked, it was all about date of registration. And let's have a look and add that to our conversation. The used vehicle tax credit. So it began January the 1st. Who qualifies? Right, qualified vehicles. You can do a check online. Have a model year at least 2 years earlier than the calendar year.
Yeah.
So a vehicle purchased in 23, say 24, would need a model year of 22. Add that one on. So that contradicts what I just said, which I thought was the point of retail purchase.
Right.
The IRS website, like Curtis just said, is about model years. Now, model years get really, really confusing. Oh, what a surprise. The Inflation Reduction Act scores once again by being ridiculously stupid. And model years get... What's the model year that's not out yet we're almost halfway through? Is it the 2024 Ford F-150 Lightning or Mach-E, or did it just come out? Like, model years sometimes come out 3, 4, 5 months before the year because the car maker has designated it a model year. And then... Like, you can't even buy 2024 model years right now from some OEMs because they haven't released them yet. That's actually different. You might need to use that link on fueleconomy.gov and certainly talk to your dealer. Please make sure I haven't just overly confused you with what my understanding of it was.
Right.
I'm sorry for if I've got it wrong for leading you up the garden path.
Right. Well, at least we can check out the IRS website, which is always a fun time, right?
Oh, my gosh. I'm not even in your country, and I'm trying to understand it. I love America. I love understanding your country. I'm fascinated with the way that we don't have things like states here and stuff.
Right.
So I love the way it all works, but also some of it is ridiculous. So please, we'll try and find some clarity on that by this time next week, and I will probably try and understand it a bit more as well.
Okay. Well, let's move on to our next case. I think our next email comes to us from Justin, and he says, "Hi there, I'm back for round 2." I guess we had a letter from Justin previously. So anyway, yeah, he's back, and he says, "You previously discussed keeping my 2023 Bolt EV after the lease is over, or getting a used Tesla Model 3, but things have changed. The Bolt's values have tanked, so it no longer makes sense to purchase my 2023 after the lease is up. Payoff would be about $19,800, which is less than I've been offered as a trade-in. So I'll be giving the Bolt back to GM and let them deal with it. I have since been given a company truck that I can drive within the state of Wisconsin. My wife and I will now only have to pay for one car payment and insure one vehicle. So we currently pay about $625 a month for car payments, $299 for my lease, and $325 for her loan, which is almost paid off. I'm back to thinking of getting a used Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus. To me, it makes sense to get the Model 3 for the rear-wheel drive driving dynamics, extra power over the Bolt, and supercharger network. The supercharger network would also make it easier to do the occasional Milwaukee to Fargo road trip to visit family. And there are plenty of low-mile options in the 26,000 to 28,000 range. Is there anything else I should consider for 26 to 28,000? It seems like a no-brainer to get a Tesla. Thank you, Justin. All right, well, no-brainer. He definitely seems to want a Tesla.
Good.
So
good.
I don't think we should necessarily dissuade him. He's going to stay electric, so that's cool. What would you tell him?
Another great thing. I have a truck that I can only drive within the state of Wisconsin. Like, what? I've never heard of that. Is that an insurance thing, or is that... Do you get to the state border and the car stops like a shopping trolley with the brake on the wheel? Like, when it gets too far away from the shop? Like, what's the deal?
Yeah, I don't know how exactly that works. Or maybe they're monitored. Sometimes they have GPS, in-vehicle GPS monitoring.
Wow.
Yeah, for like some. I mean, I used to drive a truck that had that, like a delivery truck. I don't know if I drove FedEx trucks for a while at nighttime, and I'm not sure if they had those or not. I think they did. It depends on the owner of the contractor.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah,
that's a thing though.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Give the Bolt back. So as you say, give the Bolt back. You don't need that. If you can't be up on the deal, then why would you?
Right.
You
could always go out and buy a Bolt, another Bolt on the market, used market, and take advantage of the tax credit and probably come up with something like 14 grand. Really.
Exactly. Well, you're $625 a month better off. And so you've got your truck, which you can drive anyway. So you're $7,200 and change good for the year, right? So you're sort of $7 grand a year up without your car payments, but you've got to have a car to drive. And you seem to want a Tesla, and you seem to want a low mileage Model 3. And so I think the decision comes down to, do you get a better standard range? And obviously, you're not going to get the Highland refresh, but you do get the refresh with heat pumps, and it's going to have the black trim and stuff like that. But that's been a couple of years now. And so, or do you go long range? Do you have a slightly higher mileage perhaps and try and, for 28 grand, try and get a long range one? In terms of the rear wheel drive driving dynamics, I'll let Dom talk to that, because you've got a rear wheel drive, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't think there's a huge difference.
Not really,
all-wheel drive. So
there's a slight difference. Like you can feel when you're driving the all-wheel drive, you can kind of feel the pull on the front wheel somewhat, But overall, the way that Tesla manages the power output, if you come onto it as you're like making a right-hand turn or something, or making a turn and accelerating, often like in the old days on the gas car, the back end would slip out, and in the Tesla it will do some of that a little bit in the rear-wheel drive, but not really. It really cuts the power, so it doesn't really that doesn't happen. I'd be just as happy with an all-wheel drive with dual motor Tesla, and because a little bit it would take away from that the dynamics in handling, it adds in power, in performance. And so I would take that over, rear-wheel drive, really. But rear-wheel drive was just such a good deal. That's why I went for it.
Yeah, completely. I would always go. The advice I always give to people is get the range if you can get the range, because you'll never, people will talk. You'll never regret having it. People talk about the downsides of big batteries. They're heavier. The dynamics of the car might be different, but really EVs are pretty sorted and planted with software control and stuff like that. And you're using more natural resources from the planet than you really need. Can you have a smaller battery and charge more often? Valid argument, by the way, valid argument. And with the supercharger network, you'd just be stopping more often. And then you've got a lighter car that's pressed more lightly on the planet, if you like. But still, the advice I would always give you is, so the ideal car for me would be rear-wheel drive, because I don't need all-wheel drive. It would be a rear-wheel drive Model 3, long-range battery. And I forget, with all the permutations of the Teslas, whether there's one out there in the exact model year that you or price. If you get a long-range rear-wheel drive, that's the ultimate. You will find the Model 3 significantly bigger than the Kona, which you mentioned as well. ID4 you mentioned, also a good car. No, you know what? I highly, highly recommend a recent Tesla Model 3. I can't think of many EVs at that price that are better sorted and put together than a well screwed together Model 3 that's been treated really well. And I don't know where you are. I forgot to see where you are in the world, but you'll see them everywhere.
I believe they're in Wisconsin, right?
Okay, yeah, so it's fine. But I would say get the range. If you can get long range battery, get the range.
Right. So Mike G is asking, what are the new Tesla Model 3 deals like in the U.S. right now? Lease over purchase, if happy with 2 or 3 year deal.
It's like 2% APR, I think, or 1.99%. I think it's the end of the quarter, so they're just desperately. I'll have a look.
If you want
to get rid of it.
Yeah, and plus, well, if you lease now, like a brand new one, you get the Highland, which is a really noticeable step up, in just quality, like sound performance and a little bit of handling improvement, and the seats are nicer with the ventilated seats. It's really a lot nicer car. But talking about this particular case, I'm not sure why he wanted to go standard range plus when your budget's 26,000 to 28,000, because there's plenty of cars out there for 25 or less, so you can take advantage of the tax credit, right? You might have to go, a 2-year-old car.
Yeah.
But I mean, you just got to find low miles, and it's pretty much, because you're not going to get that Highland in that budget anyway. So you're looking at, this is kind of what I have for him.
Yeah, perfect.
Like a 2020. I didn't get there's lots of deals on older Tesla Model 3s, but I thought, let's move it up a little bit, so at least it gets a newer experience. It's not too old a car, below 20,000 miles and below $25,000, which is a key. So it's 21,000 after the tax credit, basically, right?
Yeah, basically. Make sure it's not been. Oh, so that was somebody in the comments. I forget. Apologies, I didn't catch your name. Said that the car can only have one tax credit. So I said it's the first time it's been sold, because I assumed that if you sold a 2-year-old car,
right,
somebody would claim the tax credit. But if that car was sold to somebody who didn't qualify because of their income or something and couldn't claim the tax credit on that used vehicle, you could potentially be the third buyer if the second buyer didn't want to claim it, didn't bother to claim it, weren't eligible. So that's also a key thing. You're looking at older cars here. You could be the third owner of it. So also to correct myself on that. But hey, look, this is, just brilliant. I think, oh man, and because with software updates, you are still working, I think, at this with reasonably good MCU, and you get all the latest toys. Tesla fans, correct me. Yeah, really good. Like, it's just perfect. A vehicle like this for you.
Yeah. All right. So let's.
What are the new deals like? 2.99%. So this is for a long-range all-wheel drive finance deal. $653 per month, $4,000 down, 3% APR, 5 years.
It's kind of a lot.
Please don't finance cars over 5 years anyway.
Yeah, don't do that.
Please. But yeah, the US is doing some finance deals at the moment, 2.99%. I know the lease deals are like $300 a month for the rear wheel drive. So
there's so much better lease deals out there, though.
Yeah, I'd expect better stuff at the end of quarter from Tesla, but
yeah. Well, let's see if we can pick this up in our next email, because is kind of wide open here. So our final email comes to us from John with no H. He says, "Hi guys and girls, as applicable. Okay, I'm a proud Ford Mustang Mach-E owner and EV evangelist who is trying to convince a friend to get an EV. Her situation is that she and her boyfriend are living in the Bay Area while he attends grad school. They need a car during that period, but are unlikely to need one afterwards. They're planning to move into New York City. So they don't want to buy a new car and take the depreciation hit. They don't want they don't need a lot of space or plan to do a ton of driving. They just need something small and functional for around town errands and the occasional road trip around Northern California. They're open to a used car or lease. While they are not car people, they have asked for something cool and fun. I have thrown out a number of options, from a Tesla Model 3 to Volkswagen ID4, Hyundai Kona Electric to Volkswagen e-Golf, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. The ubiquity of charging in their area means I think they will be fine, even though they are unlikely to have better than level 1 charging at their apartment. But quality fast charging capability may make their lives easier. Love your podcast. Thanks for all you're doing for the EV community. John." All right. So, shopping for a friend in the Bay Area, level 1 charging maybe at home. But not only for the short term. It looks like I don't know. They didn't say how long the boyfriend's in grad school, so we're not sure the length of time that they need a car. Which, if you don't want to really take a car to New York City if you don't need to, because parking in New York City is almost as much as owning a home if you wanted a garage space. Unless you're in the borough somewhere and you can find street park somehow. Yeah. So what do you have there, Martin?
Well, these guys seem like they're young, free, and single, so to speak, but they're together. So, but what I mean is, no kids, no pets, by the sounds of it. Studying, fantastic, in an area where if you buy a Tesla, make sure you know where it is in the car park when you go back to it, because there'll be 10 more just like it lined up next to it. Which one's our car? Just so right. It's going to be really common. But let's not buy a Tesla Model 3. And if you did, it'll be fantastic, by the way. But I wish you had the Honda E in the US, because that would be such a great little car to suggest for you. But there is the Mini, right? So have a look at the Mini. Such a brilliant, fun little kind of go-kart to drive. And have a look at the BMW i3S as well. But my advice in all of these is I always buy my cars used, nearly always. I had one new Renault Zoe. So it was at the end. They were finishing off the production line in the factory in France before the ZE50. So I bought a ZE40, which is one of the last ones produced. They were getting rid of them. So as any new car I've bought in a really long time. So I always buy used cars. I always look for a deal. And I like that somebody else took the hit. Now, in EV world, that was a little bit different with supply and demand for the last few years, post-pandemic stuff like that. That's all equalized out now. And in fact, used EVs are cheaper than the average price of a used combustion car in the United States right now. So that's all gone. So I'd just say buy the oldest one you're comfortable buying. No problem with batteries. No problem with reliability on anything. There's no one make or model that I'd say don't get. But I'd say get the oldest one that you are comfortable. You're going to go for the BMW i3. Get the i3S if your budget will stretch. Get the one with the big screen because it'll just be a nicer experience. And you're not having to always open those doors and put kiddos and doggos in the back. So those are my two suggestions. But I wouldn't lease. I would buy. I would hopefully look to sell that vehicle at your convenience, because obviously lease deals, you are fixed when you get it and you fixed when it ends. Because if you buy a used vehicle, it's up to you when you sell it. You might want to go to a family member or whatever. But when you move to New York City, it doesn't sound like you're going to use that vehicle to move cross-country either. And so I would say, I reckon you can probably not lose too much money on a used vehicle that you buy and then sell on at your leisure.
All right. Well, so I was looking at this and it's so fun, I mean, it's a wide open question here. So I leaned into the fun aspect a little bit and I pulled up a Tesla Model 3, but a performance, and I've driven Kyle's performance Tesla Model 3 quite a bit, and I kind of love it. And this is a great deal, man. I'm looking at this and I'm weeping practically because, man, I would go for this. I found a 2020 Tesla Model 3 Performance with 17,085 miles on it. It's low mileage for $22,988. So
wow,
that doesn't have the tax credit taken off of. So it would be like $19,000 basically for a Tesla Model 3 Performance. That's near enough to the new to make, no real difference.
Yeah, Teslas have taken such a hit.
This is like a crazy bargain.
It's got the newer. And it's just a supply and demand thing. Depending on where you are, if you want to buy locally, and you can get any car from across the States, but if you want to buy locally, so many used examples within an hour's drive or, hiring a car to go pick it up between you. If you're in the Bay Area, oh man, you got the pick of so much stuff like this. And this is genuine fun. I mean, this is, if it's safe and legal to do so, tons of smiles. Now, what I've noticed over here as well is there's a difference with insurance.
True.
The insurance, I ran some insurance quotes for me, actually, as the lead driver, my wife is named driver, on Model 3s pre-refresh, so silver trim or chrome delete as Tesla fans sometimes call it, and it was half the price. So a car that might just be a couple of weeks older or newer, just the fact that it was the pre-refresh made a massive difference to my insurance quotes. This was January or so here in the UK, so different situation to you, but it's worth checking. It's worth checking your insurance on that. Now I don't know if they changed the manufacturer when they did Chrome Delete and they did the refresh. I don't know if they started using different manufacturing techniques. I don't know whether the insurance companies are finding the older ones cheaper to repair, parts or type of manufacture. I'd like to do a whole podcast on that and maybe interview the insurance industry to find out why. It's half the price, £1,000 a year for a post refresh, £500 a year if you didn't mind the silver trim and slightly older. But honestly, I don't care because those pre-refresh cars are still brilliant.
So I had another thought here besides buying that used Tesla. So I used the Tesla Performance. Besides, it's not only fun, but it's already taken a big depreciation hit. So I think the depreciation over the next couple of years, it won't go down that much, compared to other vehicles. It should be at least the same amount of depreciation, you would think, right? But if you don't want to buy used, I was thinking maybe a cheap lease might be a good idea as well.
Yeah, if you know your fixed time, obviously you're studying, so you know when, or your partner is studying,
right.
So you know when grad school is ending. So if it's 2 years, then it's a 2-year lease.
Right. So the 2024 Hyundai Ioniq 6, there's some deals out on this, and it might be for the standard range, which is a little bit shorter range than because the big battery version is like 360 miles, I think, as much as. But this is more of a EP estimated 270 miles. No, 240 miles for the Ioniq 6 SE standard range rear-wheel drive. Right, so it's got a smaller battery, so 240 miles. But for in town, that's fine. And $189 a month for 24 months. And it was with $2,000 down at signing. So that's a pretty good deal, I think.
Yeah, that's a great deal.
I mean, I didn't do the math. I should do the math, actually. So if you take that money down, that 1,999, divide it by 24 months equals, and add it to the 299. I don't know why they just don't do this for all of them. $382 a month is basically what it's costing.
For the price of transport, which that isn't, where you live, doesn't sound like it's the most important thing for you guys, but you want to have some fun for maybe a year or two. I think that's for the cost of transport. I think it's affordable, but I know
that's not bad. I think
everyone's numbers are different, aren't they? But I think it's okay.
I think I'd still lean use Tesla Model 3 performance, for that price.
So much fun.
It's just that much price. It's like
it's such a ridiculously fast car. It's just brilliant.
It's quick, and people complain it's not going to have the greatest ride because performance tend to have larger tires and harder suspension possibly, but I don't know. I have 19-inch wheels on mine, and it's not the best driving car. If the road's smooth, it's so nice. But everyone has different feelings about the ride smoothness or harshness and acceptability. There's plenty of people who don't like the Tesla Model 3 ride out there.
Give it a go. Like if you're buying a performance with the 21s, then they will be curbed to hell and back. I think they come like that at the factory. Like I've never seen one that wasn't curbed. I'm like, what are you doing, Tesla drivers? But so there's going to be downsides, and there's no sidewall, and so you are going to probably have a few more punctures than if you're on like a nice bouncy 18-inch. But you're going to have a lot of fun in that car. Right. I agree.
John Check just mentions too. A lot of people don't have $3,000 to $5,000 for down payment. For
they're studying as well. So
right,
and
living in the Bay Area, so it's an expensive city. Probably not, young. Probably a whole lot of a lot of budget, a lot of extra money hanging out there. But but that would get it up to Northern California where they can recreate and whatever. Do whatever one does up in Northern California. I haven't been there yet, so I'm not sure what you do there. Anyway, so Does that bring us to the end of our show?
I think we're there. Well, thank you,
my God,
everybody, for watching, tuning in live, or whether on the replay as well. We're doing more of these live. So
yeah, it's been fun. Enjoying it.
Midweek show on Wednesday. Got some other stuff coming up as well. So that's looking like it's going to be a good chat about batteries as a midweek show, and with a battery expert, a doctor, isn't he?
Oh, John has a little question for us real quick.
John, thank you.
Does anyone know the $7,500 tax rebate can be used as a down payment? I doubt it. I don't know for sure, but I tend to doubt that. It just sounds like a...
I mean, the dealer might do some funky things with their numbers on the paper, but I think in terms of the IRS, as we already had the website open today,
legitimately, I'm not sure. That's a go. I mean, you can ask the dealer. If the dealer can do it, they'll tell you.
Yeah. Or they might be able to move the numbers around, but I think in terms of what is officially designated as the new tax credit for a new EV, because that is essentially tied in with your tax affairs, I don't think they start to let dealers, do a little bit of a deal here and all that kind of stuff. But maybe the way the dealer presents it to you on paper, it's taking account of that. But yeah, do check with the dealer, John. But great question, actually.
All right. And Lightning Love, I think he changed his name recently. Tesla takes the credit at point of sale, just to remind you of that part.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below or get in touch with us on the social media platform of your choice. Don't forget, if you love the show, please give us a thumbs up. If you didn't love the show, please give us a thumbs up. Click subscribe. Tap that bell icon for notifications. Thank you all very much for joining us again. It's been great. And we'll see you again next time. Ciao.